My name's Mark, and you're listening to Headstraight. Hello, you lot, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be answering the question that most people avoid for as long as they possibly can do. What do you actually stand for? Not what you like, not what you post, not what you agree with when everyone else agrees first. What do you stand for when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or it costs you something? Because, if I'm honest, a lot of people don't struggle with confidence. They struggle with direction. They know what they don't want. They know what annoys them. They know what they're against. But when it comes to what actually guides their choices, well, this is where things get a little bit blurry. And when things are blurry inside, influence gets messy on the outside. You end up going along with stuff that you don't really agree with, staying quiet when something feels off, saying yes when your gut is clearly saying no. Now, it's not because you're weak, but because you don't have a clear internal reference point. So, the loudest voice in the room wins, or the most confident person makes the decision, or the moment just drags you along with it. And over time, that does something subtle, but really important. You stop trusting yourself. This episode isn't about becoming rigid or morally perfect, and it's not about rules, labels, or having a strong opinion on everything. It's about building a quiet backbone, a set of values that you can lean on when things start to get messy. Because when you know what you stand for, a few things change straight away. You make decisions faster. You feel steadier under pressure. And people trust you. Not because you're loud or persuasive, but because you're consistent. So today, we're not talking about who you want to be someday. We're talking about the principles that already matter to you, and how getting clear on them quietly shapes your impact on everyone around you. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is values as your internal compass, and why clarity always beats confidence. Because most people think that confidence is what helps you make decisions. Well, it isn't. Clarity does. Confidence comes and goes. Some days you feel it, and some days you really don't. But when you're clear on what matters to you, you don't need to feel confident to act. You just need to recognise what aligns and what doesn't. That's why values work like a compass. They don't just tell you what to do in every situation, they tell you which direction feels right when things get messy. And here's where most people get tripped up. They think that values are big, dramatic words like honesty, loyalty, respect, integrity. All sounding nice, but not very usable in real life. But real values show up in tiny decisions. Do I speak up, or do I stay quiet? Do I join in, or should I step back? Do I tell the truth, or smooth things over? Do I take the easier route, or the one that sits right with me? When you don't have clarity on your values, those decisions are draining. You overthink, you second guess, you replay and run things through your mind afterwards. Not because you chose wrong, but because you chose without a reference point. And when that happens repeatedly, something subtle starts to build up. You start feeling disconnected from yourself. That's the feeling that a lot of people mistake for anxiety, low confidence, or even burnout. Often, it's just a case of misalignment. You're living in a way that doesn't quite match what matters to you, and your system is letting you know. So this part of the episode isn't about adopting new values. It's about naming the ones you're already living by, even if you've never said them out loud. Because Once you can name them, you can use them. And once you start using them consistently, people start to experience you as grounded and trustworthy, even if they don't agree with you. Now that is influence built on integrity, not performance. So let's slow this down and make it practical. I'm going to talk to you about the values inventory. Now, a lot of people think that they need to decide their values, but let me tell you, you don't. You're already living by them. You just haven't named them yet. The values inventory isn't about picking words off a list or trying to sound impressive. It's about noticing what actually gets a reaction from you. Because values show up emotionally before they show up intellectually. Think about the moments that stick with you. The ones that you replay. The ones that leave you feeling proud, unsettled, angry, or heavy. Now those reactions are your clues. Ask yourself things like, when have I felt quietly proud of myself, even if no one noticed? When have I felt disappointed in myself? Not embarrassed, but just off. What behaviour in other people really gets under my skin? What behaviour instantly earns my respect? Now, by doing this, you're not analysing. You're just observing. If unfairness hits a nerve, then it's more likely that fairness probably matters to you. If dishonesty bothers you more than most, then honesty is likely a core value. If you can't stand watching someone being excluded, kindness or inclusion might sit high on your priority list. And here's something important. Values aren't about being perfect. They're about what you return to. Now everyone slips. Everyone compromises sometimes. But when something keeps pulling at you internally, that's one of your core values asking for attention. So the goal here isn't to come up with 10 values. It's to find maybe 5 that feel undeniably true to you. Not because they sound good, but because when you read them back, your body goes, yeah, that's me. Those 5 values become your internal reference points. Not rules and not standards to beat yourself up with. Just anchors. And once you have them, decision-making gets a lot simpler. Because if instead of asking, what should I do? You start asking, what fits with who I am? That shift can change everything. Now here's another strategy that I want to share with you. It's called the hell yes, hell no filter. It's about deciding without the spiral. One of the biggest drains on people isn't making the wrong decision. It's sitting in the middle. That long, uncomfortable space where you're half in and you're half out. Where you keep thinking about it, replaying conversations, wondering how to say no without upsetting anyone, or saying yes without betraying yourself. That's where the hell yes, hell no filter comes in. Now it's not dramatic, it's not aggressive, it's just honest. When something lines up with your values, it usually doesn't feel neutral. It feels like a yes, even if it's scary, even if it's inconvenient, even if it costs you something. And when something doesn't line up, it rarely feels calm. It feels heavy, tense, or draining. Now that, right there, that is your system telling you something important. So instead of overthinking, you ask yourself one simple question. If I strip away pressure, guilt, and expectation, is this a hell yes or a hell no? Not will people like it? Not will this cause conflict? Not what should I do? Just does this fit with who I am? And here's the bit that people tend to get wrong. A hell no doesn't mean storming out, burning bridges, or making a big statement. Most of the time, it just means a calm, clear boundary. You can say no quietly. You can step back without over-explaining yourself. You can choose not to engage and still be kind. And when you do say yes, it's cleaner, it's lighter. There's less resentment attached because you didn't talk yourself into it. This filter doesn't make life easy, but it makes it honest. And honest choices build something really powerful over time. It builds self-trust. You stop doubting yourself so much. You stop replaying everything. And you start backing your own decisions. Which brings us to the last piece of this episode. Because even when you know your values, you still drift sometimes. Don't worry about that. That's normal. What matters is how quickly you notice and how you course correct. Which brings us nicely to something called the integrity check-in. This is about noticing drift without beating yourself up about it. Even when you know what you stand for, you're not going to live it perfectly. The reason is because no one does. Life gets busy. Pressures creep in. You go along with things because it's easier. You stay quiet because maybe you're tired. You make a choice that doesn't quite sit right. Now, that doesn't mean that you lack integrity. It just means that you're human. Integrity isn't about never drifting. It's about noticing when you have and adjusting without self-destruction. That's what the integrity check-in is for. It's a simple pause that you can use anytime things feel off. You ask yourself, what did I do that didn't sit right with me? Which value did that decision brush up against? What would a small course correction look like right now? Not a big apology tour, not a personality overhaul. This is just a small, quiet realignment. And sometimes it's as simple as sending a message that you avoided, admitting that you over-agreed, setting a boundary next time, or choosing differently tomorrow. And this is the really important bit. People trust those who course correct, not those who pretend that they never messed up. When you live this way, consistently, imperfectly, honestly, your influence stabilizes. You stop reacting to every situation. You stop being pulled around by louder personalities. You stop needing approval to feel grounded. And other people feel that from you too. They experience you as steady, as reliable, as someone whose words and actions usually line up. Now that, right there, is integrity in real life. So, I want to set you a challenge for this week. Pick one value from your inventory. Just one. Live deliberately by it for the next 24 hours. Not loudly, not perfectly, just consciously. And I want you to notice what shifts. What shifts in your decisions, in your energy, in how you show up with other people. And just write it down. Because awareness is how alignment starts. And that's it for this week. So let me tell you what's coming up in the next episode. We're talking about what happens when your values ask you to speak up, even when staying quiet feels safer. How do you say something without blowing things up or betraying yourself? Well, that's coming up next. So, are you up for it? Of course you are.